Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, this is Kenya Revolutionary. Today, we want to talk about Saba, but I won't be talking about Saba per se, but I want us to look at what led us to the Saba that's going to happen, that's scheduled for tomorrow. We heard Mr. Raila Odinga, who came out and announced that tomorrow is going to be the mother of all mandamanos, which will be Saba. We all know the significance of Saba historically. If you don't know or you want to have a historical context about this, well, in 1990, there were young Turks, political Turks at the time, Martin Shikuku, James Orengo, Raila Odinga, Kenneth Matiba, among others, came out in the streets, rallied people around to protest the one-party rule, against the one-party rule by Moi, President Daniel Toroticha Arap Moi. So people came out and say, hey, listen, we need to end this, we need to have multi-partyism, and eventually it led to the constitution, part of the constitution being amended to give way for a multi-party system. So it was effective. And after that, we've always had Sabas to agitate for different causes against the ruling government of the time. Now, what will be so different about tomorrow? Okay, are people going to come out and protest against the government of the day, which is Ruto? Okay, first, let's look at why are we going for this Saba today, okay? Because we've had several Saba after the initial one in 1990, okay? What's going to happen tomorrow? Let's get to it. But before I get to it, please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like, share, and comment. Tell me if you agree or not, all right? So let's get to it, all right? Now, one of the stark differences that I want to highlight between the initial Saba in 1990 and the Saba that we're going to have tomorrow is zeitgeist, the political climate. In 1990, the initial Saba, the original Saba, everyone was pretty much, not everyone, but majority of the people at the time had enough of President Moi's rule. They had enough of Kanu's rule. So they wanted divergent voices. They wanted to organize. They wanted people to organize, to be able to have another political party besides Kanu. That was the overwhelming feeling among the population, among the Kenyan citizen. That's why it was so successful. People had enough of Kanu, so they came out and say, no, we gotta have different political parties. We can't just depend on or just wait on Kanu to rule us forever, okay? That was something that they had enough of. And they got out there and did their thing. People were killed, shot, even Raila Odinga and I think Kenneth Matiba were jailed for that, among others. But they got the results they want. So what's the difference about this time? 2023, fast forward 2023. What's the political climate presently in Kenya? What's the issue, okay? The number one issue is the cost of living. Number two is the finance bill, right? The cost of living is high and people are anxious about this. They want change. They want prices of commodities to go down, like food, fuel, all that stuff to come down, okay? Number two, the finance bill that's just been passed, okay, which is being challenged right now by Okiya Omtata, among others. I just read that Azimio has joined in the petition, among others. People were against it because of the proposed higher taxes, okay? So people were not happy about that. But it passed through the parliament. And it was going to be ratified by the president, okay? So it can become law. But before he did that, thank God for Okiya Omtata went to the courts and it's been suspended right now. It's in hold for the next 10 days where the court will rule over that. But is this something that we are so passionate about to the point where we want to come out to the streets and risk our lives, risk our freedom to protest against? And I'm talking about the finance bill and the cost of living. Yes, these are important. These are very, very important issues that affect the people. But is it something that really can drive you out there to go protest? Risk being shot by the police, risk being arrested? We'll wait and see. I want to delve into something different because I don't think the number of people coming out, yes, it will be significant if a lot of people come in across the nation, whether it's in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, whatever. If they show up and really protest against this finance bill and the cost of living, it will be wonderful because it will show that the country actually are really tired of this government or tired of the policies that government is putting forth or is proposing that's affecting the wananchi. But that's something that we can wait and see. The something that I want to talk about is what led us to this mandamano. What really led us to this actual mandamano, okay? What's the objective of the Azimio side? Because they're the ones who are driving this Saba. So let's look at what's up with that, okay? Now, Raila came out and gave the reasons why, the objective, okay? He was accompanied by his lieutenants, Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wajakoya. What's interesting, take a look at when Raila is giving his press release. Look at Kalonzo Musyoka's face, which I found was interesting. But listen, he's going to give you the reasons why they're going to Saba. Take a look.
We're here to announce that our Kamkunji meeting is on in Nairobi this Friday, as we had announced. But it is not just a Kamkunji in Nairobi, but a Kamkunji across the country, where this third liberation will be launched. On that day, 7th July 2023, that is coming Friday, among other activities, we will launch a signature collection to signify our rejection of Kenya Kwanza regime and its policies, especially the punitive taxes. As we speak, fuel, food, fare are all going up in prices. In fact, fare is already going up by 30%. We need unity now more than ever. United, we can get many of the things that we not only desire.
Now you heard what he said, but what was most important and which I found was very curious was towards the end of that press release, statement rather. Notice that Raila says this Saba Mandamano will not be limited to Nairobi. It will be also in other places across the nation. And he will name those places later. Okay? Just take a look.
To prepare to join the Kamkunji in Nairobi and in different other places across the country on Friday. I want to repeat that it's not just in Nairobi. It will be in other centers across the country, and the names are going to be announced shortly. Thank you, Kenyans. Let us meet in Kamkunji and other parts of the country for the Saba of our lifetime. Thank you. End of statement.
Anyway, what got us into this Saba? Azimio has always had their protest before this, after the elections. We had elections. They petitioned the Supreme Court to have their grievances heard, okay? And the courts upheld the victory of William Ruto. 5 months later after that, we had a couple of mandamanos which were not really effective, but they were mandamano nevertheless. So the last mandamano that was scheduled to happen was suspended because Ruto invited the Raila, the Azimio side, to go through parliament so they can have what they call it bipartisan dialogue committee. I think the Azimio side has 7 people who they selected, and 7 people from the Kenya Kwanza side who formed this commission that can talk to iron out these issues. Azimio's issue number 1 at the time, the main reason why they formed this bipartisan dialogue committee was to talk about the electoral reforms, okay? Because the IBC does not have commissions there. They're supposed to vote different, a new commission, members of the commission of the IBC, okay? But it seems that These guys kept on moving the goalpost, because they kept on coming with new demands. They started up with, okay, it was about IEBC. That was the main issue, electoral reforms, okay? They wanted to see the server open and all that stuff. But as the time goes by, the Azimio side had different demands. And Kenya Kwanza had to make concessions all the time. I will let Mr. George Muruga, who heads this, he's a co-chair of this dialogue, this bipartisan dialogue committee, him along with Otienda Molo on the Azimio side. But here's George Mugara, who explains the inner workings of this bipartisan dialogue committee, what the talks were about and why the talks were suspended and why the Azimio walked out and went to the streets for Mandamano. So let's just listen to what this guy takes, because I think it gives us a good insight on the inner workings of how these guys were kind of trying to talk this out. In my opinion, based on what this guy is saying, it looks like Azimio is always using Mandamano to force their issue. They try to bring this issue to the parliament, because if you listen to George Muraga, and I'll play it in a minute, I'll play the clips in a minute. He's saying that the talks, regardless of what they talk about, it should be anchored, or the talks should be within the perimeters of the law. But it seems like Mandamano wants to work outside of the law, and that's where the difference is coming. So let's listen to this gentleman. And as I say, it seems to me that this Mandamano, whether it's Saba or the previous Mandamanos, it has always tried to they kind of try to use this Mandamano as leverage during these talks. Azimio is trying to use that for them to get their way. But let's listen to George Murugara so we can get a kind of an idea of how these guys were negotiating these talks.
Situations such as this one, not only to demonstrate goodwill, but to also make it palatable and possible for the things which haven't been said but are meant.
That is one reason why we had the creation of the Office of the Official Opposition Leader as one of the issues from the Kenya Kwanza side. We also felt there may have been a little bit of unfairness in terms of winner take it all, that the person who actually came number 2 and the margin was not that big is not recognized in law. We felt that why don't we create, even if it's not for a person, the entity, all right? And the opposition party can nominate who is going to be their leader. It doesn't have to be the person who came number 2. But it's a recognition, while we have it in our constitution through parliament. Maybe we now think of it slightly outside parliament, in the executive side of government, so that we don't demonize the opposition. In fact, we really need the opposition in the country.
Is that what is hoped for? A change of mind to come back to the table?
That is what we hope for. Otherwise, then what was their problem with the IBC? The rest of the issues they are raising, including the finance bill, was not part of our talks. It was introduced the last minute. That part of our talks now, in some parliamentary group meeting that was attended towards when they suspended, it's when the finance bill came in. And we told them, sorry, we cannot have new things coming up day and night because this is going to hinder our progress. So we said, no, it's going to be part of it. And we said, fine, if it's part of it, it's part of it. But as far as we are concerned as Kenya Kwanza, the common issue we had was IBC. And we are prepared to sit down, negotiate on the issues surrounding the selection panel. But if they don't come back, so be it. Let's go to the law. Let's have a selection panel in place. Let's constitute IBC. The rest of the issues, we shall deal with them. I heard them saying lawyers will meet lawyers, whether in court or elsewhere. We have no problem with that. We have enough lawyers, just as they also have enough lawyers. You do in the circumstances. You have to accept you've lost.
That's why the process that you are co-chair of was created, to try and find a middle ground between what was a definitive moment. It goes to Parliament. Kenya Kwanza has a majority.
Thank you.
Okay? So this was supposed to bridge. My understanding.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you're right. You're right. That is what we were supposed to do. But unfortunately, when we went to this table, we were met with the demand upon demand, and much of it was blackmail. It's either you do this or we
walk
pull
out.
Do this or we walk out. There comes a time you say, I have bent so far that I can't bend anymore. There was absolutely nothing wrong with Honorable Kenan. It's purely because, as a person, as a member of parliament representing elders, nothing wrong. But purely because we don't like Kenan. We don't like him who he associates with. We don't like the way he has come in. Who are you to bring him here? Remove him. All right? We had issues with Kosing. We said, fine. Maybe
because of who he represents or who he associates with.
Even him regarding his party.
Okay.
We're still not satisfied. But he said no.
So you are draw there.
Yeah, we had a draw there.
Everybody had issues.
One person had to give in. Who gave in? Kenya Kwanza gave in.
So Kosing remained.
So Kosing remained, and we had to bring in somebody else. All right? We bent. The second demand that came in was we were not going to be parliamentary at all. We said, sorry, we will lack impetus in law. We will lack anchoring in law. We must actually have some law backing us so that when the time comes, we have somewhere to take the even if the principals refuse the documents, we have parliament to table that document too. We hangled over it, and we had to go 50-50, meet in the middle. We say, fine, we will have an element of extra parliamentary and parliamentary.
Okay.
So again, here we've bent to agree to it. Because when this was being set up, the communique that we got was it has to be within the parameters of the law.
Yeah.
Anything extra parliamentary was not within the law. So we bent here. We moved on. And you can see it is handle after handle. Now, we got to discuss the issues of IBC. Listen to what we're being told. You have to agree that the selection panel suspends its work. We said, under what law can we agree to this? No. We are above the law. Here we are not bound by any law. Here we are bound by our own whims. We said we can't agree to that. Absolutely we can't. What we do is let us request the selection panel on its own volition to agree to our request. Formally ask them. And most likely they are human beings. They'll understand what you are doing. That was disagreed.
Most likely.
It is not going to.
So you establish that they are human beings.
Yeah, they're human beings. Because, you cannot order selection panel under the law. You have to cite the law.
Yeah.
So what we did was we requested, that was my letter.
Yeah.
He redrafted it. He made it a resolution of the committee. I refused to sign. I said, this is not a resolution of the committee. It is a request by the committee. Now the next demand was we have to compel IBC to preserve the servers.
Yeah.
The question we asked, we are compelling as who? Where are we getting the power to compel an independent commission to do ABCD? What we do is, let's cite the law. Let's cite the Elections Act and the regulations they are under. Remind them that they are under an obligation under the Act and the regulations to preserve election material for 3 years. I drafted the letter that way. Otiende Amolo rejected it.
On what basis?
He said, this is not good enough.
It has to be a resolution.
It has to be a resolution of the committee. So he said, sorry.
And the resolution, as you say, would actually be going against the law.
It could be going against the Elections Act.
Because you cannot order
IBC to do anything. But you can remind IBC it is bound
by the obligations.
The obligations under the law. So that is the draft I had given to Honorable Otiende Amolo. It's a draft he rejected, and he gave me 2 different drafts. And unfortunately, I couldn't agree to this because to me, I felt they were going out. Kenya Kwanza, we actually had goodwill. And I kept on repeating that we were mandated to act within the law. And that's why they were saying, sorry, you're becoming a hardliner because you're insisting on the law being followed. And I was constantly telling them, sorry, you cannot do this because if you try to suspend the law at any one moment, that is called a coup. You are executing a coup against some legally elected government or instituted government or whatever it is. So we had goodwill. And this is why, in our view, the most urgent issue that had to be dealt with was IBC. The other issues were also pertinent. Reduction on cost of living, but we kept on asking, how is this to be done? The processes have to be administrative. They are not legal. And therefore, while we appreciate what you're saying, we have to be told how quickly it can be done, knowing for sure that as a government policy, we are moving away from subsidies. So that was on the table.
So in conclusion, what Azimio is trying to do is trying to depend on the protesters, the number of protesters. I know they've been saying that they don't want any damages or violence or any destruction of property, but let's face it, historically we know every maandamano that happens, it always have an element of criminality in it, whether it's people having their fights with the police, the shootings, the people getting mugged and beaten up, property being damaged. That's something that we know happens every maandamano. And guess who benefits in this? Is the Azimio, whether they do it deliberately or not, okay? Because when chaos happens like this, it makes international news, and you'll start hearing the British government or the American government comes out and say, hey, listen, these two should come sit down and have a peaceful resolution. And that way, all the laws shall be suspended and there shall be some kind of resolution found within, outside of the parliament, outside of the law, that shall be enacted now, shall be adopted, just like we did in 2007 when people came out and there was a lot of killings, there was a lot of destruction of property, and there was a lot of chaos, and the Kofi Annan and Rice came in, flew into Kenya, and we adopted this government of national unity, which was brought about and eventually brought in the new, ended up bringing in the new constitution. So that is what Azimio are banking on. That's their game plan, okay? Since they failed working within the law, within the parliament, because if you look at the Kenya Kwanza, their whole game plan is this: we shall recruit as many as politicians as we can on our side. And you can see with Osoro and Malala going across the nation, getting all the defectees, the people defected from Azimio side to come to the Kenya Kwanza side. So in case Azimio try to go through the parliament, they cannot win in passing anything because the Kenya Kwanza side are the majority, okay? And Azimio knows that, so they can only depend on protest. And this protest has to be as chaotic as possible for the international community to say, hey, listen. And you can hear it from pro-Azimio people like Professor Herman Manyora, the pseudo-intellectual, who's saying, oh my God, this country can go to hell, whatever, this country will be destroyed, these two gentlemen need to come sit down and come up with a resolution so we can have a peace. They don't need the parliament, these two gentlemen, Ruto and Raila, should sit down and come up with something and there'll be peace, just like when Uhuru and Raila. No. So that they know that. So these protests, they depend on this. And they're emboldened by this because the previous protests have made Ruto to actually form the
najua ataendesha hii mambo yake pia hii yote mpaka na maandamano, lakini mimi najua itailia wapi. I know that. Sina hiyo. So sasa sisi kwa sababu tunajuana, si ndio? Wewe unanijua, mimi nakujua. Tumekubaliana sasa wabunge waende waongee. Sina hiyo. Wapangane huko bunge. Wacha mimi ningangane na hii kazi. Hii nisukume hii kazi. Na mimi nataka Bwana Prime Minister, umesema kuna maneno ya gharama ya maisha kupanda. Ni kweli. Gharama ya maisha iko juu. Lakini sasa si mimi nikichaguliwa, si gharama ya maisha ilikuwa juu. Unga ilikuwa 230. Saa hii ndio imepata hata nafuu. Nimeenda kutafuta